You see your priorities in two things, your checkbook and your calendar. And the issue here is that the issues for Democrats was they were willing to screw up the banking system, screw up the healthcare system. They were willing to go into other things, but they wasn't willing to deal with immigration.
You've said every lie in the book. It's all on tape. We have everything that Biden has said, everything that Karine Jean-Pierre has said, everything his Biden administration has said, that said that you had literally their hands were tied behind their back and it was all Republicans and Trump's fault. And now they're coming in at the very final hour and saying, oh, we'll do this. We'll just, so they have something to use going into November.
We need the stability, whether we like Johnson or not, of having a speaker in, especially with what's going on in Israel. But on top of that, we can now go to voters and talk about that we've reached across the line. We've tried to at least bring stability to what is a chaotic Republican Party. And without us, there would be no functioning House. So thank you, Republicans, for allowing us to be truly the bipartisan leaders.
All right, guys, I hope you're ready for the weekend. By the way, tomorrow, great show. Kimberly Guilfoyle will be here, plus House Oversight Committee James Comer. He's going to be here as well. Make sure you're hitting that notification button right now. Do it. I won't get upset. I promise you. Go hit that, because no matter where you're getting it, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple, you got to make sure you're going to see this conversation tomorrow. Plus, of course, today. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she took her shot. I swore, I was so convinced it wasn't going to happen. I'm sorry. I was wrong. She ultimately did it. But Johnson won big time. We're going to break that down with the panel in just a second. Barron Trump stepping into the spotlight. Plus, I want to tell you guys about a bill that the House passed that I guarantee, well, I shouldn't say that. You guys are very smart. But there's a lot of people who I guarantee you have never heard about this bill, and it's unbelievably consequential. I'm going to ask the panel about it. We've got a great panel coming your way, by the way. Doug Collins, former congressman from Georgia. He is the host of the Doug Collins podcast and leads the Georgia chapter of America First Policy Institute. Michael Starr Hopkins, he's a op-ed writer at The Hill, a Democratic operative, former public defender in New York, and a former campaign official on both the Obama and the Clinton campaigns. You're going to want to hear his perspective on some of the big issues today. Why does Kathy Hochul get a pass when it comes to making racist comments? And then Hilton Beckham, she's the communications director at America First Policy Institute and served in the Trump White House communications office. As you know, Kristi Noem, though, she canceled her book tour, at least so far, because of bad weather. But when you get bad weather, are you going to be prepared? I know I am. I've got a Patriot Power Generator 2000X in my house. So whether it's bad weather, a natural disaster, an electrical outlet, an attack on our power grid, the question is, are you going to be ready? Something's going to happen. I've been without power several times in my house for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just a random power outage, a pole gets hit, whatever. And having something like the Patriot Power Generator 2000X is critical. And if you go to 4patriots.com/Spicer, you can have one too. What makes this generator unique, though, is you don't need gas to power it. It runs completely on solar panels that come free with it. That's part of the deal. And that's cool because, one, there's no fumes. There's no massive amounts of noise. You can literally bring it into your house and power all of the things that you need: phones, tablets, computers. You can even power your refrigerator with the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. And because it's so portable, you can literally lift it up, put it in your car. You can put it outside. You could bring it to your mom's house. It's Mother's Day this weekend. You could bring it to a sporting event or a friend's in need. That's the cool part about this. It's so unique. This is what you're going to want to have in a time of crisis. And you go to 4patriots.com/Spicer. You can get one too. Trust me when I say you're going to be so thankful that you have one in a time of need. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer to be ready. All right, I want to bring in the panel, Doug, Hilton, and Michael. All right, panel's all here. Doug, I got to start with you. You're the former congressman from Georgia, so I apologize. But what do you think about what happened on the House yesterday? MTG, first of all, I just need to apologize to some of my guests. I said there's no way that Marjorie would pull the trigger because she saw the writing on the wall and she can read politics really well. And then as soon as I say that, she pulls the trigger. So I will eat the crow today. But what do you think about the tactic?
I think it got exactly what she wanted to get out of it. And I think it ended up, being, I sort of say a win and a loss, I think, in looking at this for both sides. I mean, in a win that she got people, quote, put on record, and now you can do your fundraising, you can do whatever you want to do for it. But also, it put also Johnson, he passed it, but he had to do it with Democrat help. So there's always going to be that hangover. And I think that's going to be the problem he's got going forward. I don't think it's an issue of him speaker till November. The question will be speaker in January. And I think that's going to be the bigger issue as we look at this.
All right, Michael, you're the Democrat. Do you guys look at this? I mean, you saved him, quote unquote. Is that a good thing for the party? Is that a good image? Or do you guys think that, an election cycle from now, that's going to be a campaign tactic? Congressman so-and-so saved Speaker Mike Johnson. Vote for me. I'm to the left of him.
No, I think this is a smart move for Democrats. Politically, I think it's a smart move for the country. One, we need the stability, whether we like Johnson or not, of having a speaker in, especially with what's going on in Israel. But on top of that, we can now go to voters and talk about that we have reached across the line. We've tried to at least bring stability to what is a chaotic Republican Party. And without us, there would be no functioning House. So thank you, Republicans, for allowing us to be truly the bipartisan leaders that this country needs.
Hilton, the thing is, I got to say this, regardless of what you think or not, it doesn't look good. We got a majority. When you want a majority, it's like, hey, we've got an agenda. We can put it forward. And our agenda now is, hey, we want to keep changing the horse at the top that's leading us, right? We want to change the one at the head of the pack. I feel like I get it. I'm not 100% Mike Johnson. I don't think Donald Trump's 100%, but it's like, hey, let's get to November at least.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. This kind of tore my heart up because as you know, I was on the Hill. I worked for the Freedom Caucus. I'm like big Freedom Caucus girl. I like things to be shaken up, but this was like such a hard line for me, given where we're at in the election year and how we've already ousted one speaker and Speaker Johnson. Like, what was the purpose of doing it right now, and what would it achieve, and who would even fill his spot? And also, too, but you have a hard time because like Speaker Johnson has passed forward a bill that more Democrats signed on to than Republicans. And so, like, how do you give a pass to that? And then even this morning, he was on Fox and Friends, and they were saying, they were talking about the Democrats who helped him stay on, and was applauding the Democrats. And you want to see bipartisanship, but at some point too, it doesn't look great to your conservative audience when you're giving Democrats a pat on the back. So I don't know. This was not on my bingo card this year. This is such a wide turn.
All right, let me go around the horn. Michael, I'll start with you. Is Mike Johnson speaker in January of 2025? Sorry, I had to do the math there. Is it just simple, like around the horn thing? Do you think he's speaker in 2025? Yeah. And like, just to be clear, because I know that you're going to say we're going to win the House on the Democratic side. Is he the Republican leader in 2025 to at least give you the carve out?
I think he is the Republican leader, but not for very long. If Republicans lose the House, I think there's going to have to be some reckoning that goes on. And so I think that there will be new elections. I think there's going to be a lot of infighting to try to figure out if Republicans lose the House, that's likely that Trump lost the White House and that there's down ticket losses. So I think should Republicans lose, they're going to lose big. And if Republicans win, they'll win big. I think it's true on either side. And so there's going to be a lot of reckoning.
Doug Collins, I think Republicans hold the House. It may not be much, but they'll hold it. Do you think that Speaker Johnson remains?
It'll be hard. And I think that was the one thing that came out of the vote yesterday. Now, I'll disagree with Michael a little bit. I'm not sure there'd have been 11 votes that he got, to not table this thing if the Democrats hadn't have kicked in. I think it'd have been a lot smaller. I think it'd have been 2 to 3, maybe 4 in there. But that's still, 1 to 2 vote majority. That's still enough to sink a speakership.
So he's got a 1-seat majority. Once you get beyond 1, it kind of doesn't matter.
I think he's in trouble. I think there's a lot of play. What I'm hearing behind the scenes right now is there's a lot of people eyeing deck chair shuffling. And again, this is what bothers me, I guess, more just as a friend to a lot of them, but also just as a constituent now looking at the country. We're spending more time with the what-if scenarios of who's in leadership than we are actually putting a governing or conservative agenda out there. And I think that's what bothers me most about this.
Yeah, Hilton, is he speaker in January?
I don't think so. No,
yeah.
I just think once you get a little bit more majority, he's out.
The thing that bothers me in this, and I've asked this of a lot of members, Doug, and maybe you're the perfect person. I don't get, what I don't get is there's so many what I would call singles. things that you could do, simple things that I don't think are meaningless by any means, but just maybe aren't shooting for the fences, that the Republicans could put on the board, that probably even Democrats in some cases in terms of funding, cutting funding, reform of the tax code, whatever it is, get some points on the board for goodness sake and show that you understand. I've used this example ad nauseum, and I'm sorry for folks in the audience who've heard me say it before, but when Gingrich was campaigning in 94 to become speaker, he had this contract with America. It was very simple. Everybody could read it and go, okay, I get it. Term limits, committee chairs had to rotate out, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, okay, I can buy into that. Why does everything have to be so complicated? Why can't a member just stand up at the House Republican Conference and say, I have a bill to cut funding from this outdated program. Can everyone get behind it?
Well, because we've made it so difficult now, and I said this offline before we started, and again, and I say it on my podcast all the time, do not ever hear an argument from a majority member of the House of Representatives say that the minority can't let them do something. It's always the majority, either whether Democrat or Republican, that will strip them up, because there is no mechanism for the minority to stop anything in the U.S. House. So what you're saying is true, but the problem is right now we don't have enough Republicans who understand the concept of the 217, 218 votes to actually pass something. And that may mean you get 70% of what you want. It may mean you get 95% of what you want. But if you can't come to 217, you get 0% of what you want, except a YouTube video and something to raise money on. And that's the problem right now. We have too many members. It appears like being, and I say this with caution, but I've seen it, and Hilton's been on the Hill, and I knew the members of the Freedom Caucus before they were the Freedom Caucus. I remember the first meetings of this stuff, but the issue became more of now as we look at the thing, what can we get done without compromising, principles and actually can run on, that you can actually say you've done something. And I think that's become that for some members, they have a minority mindset in the House, not a majority mindset in the House.
Yeah, I'll take that a step further. I don't even think it's a minority. I think that you touched on it at the beginning. They just want the headline. My whole thing is, if you don't get anything done, nothing, then who cares? And they want to be able to go out and score political points on YouTube or on Twitter to get followers and likes, as opposed to actually getting something done. All right, I hope you're enjoying the panel discussion. I want to interrupt it for just a second. Mother's Day is this Sunday. Now, you're probably too late for Mother's Day, but Father's Day is coming up. Plus, there's always birthdays and holidays. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the perfect gift, something meaningful and unique that no one else is going to give that special person in your life. So here's what I'm talking about. If you go check out what the folks at Paint Your Life are doing, you just supply them with a picture that you upload. And if you text Spicer to 87204, they'll send you a link. You can try it for free. You can check this out, what I'm talking about. You give them a picture, or you can give them several pictures, and they can make a compilation. So maybe you've got family members and you want to put them into one painting, or a pet, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. This is just me. This is the painting they did. The cool part about it is you get to decide, you want it watercolor, charcoal, acrylic, whatever. There's a million choices. You get to choose the different kind of frame that you want to make it look the way you want it to, which is pretty cool, right? And then you get to choose your artist. And once you choose the artist, they send you feedback via video so you can watch the progress. If you're not 100% satisfied, you don't have to pay for it. 100% guarantee. And if you go text right now, Spicer to 87204, Spicer to 87204, you get 20% off and free shipping. Get ahead of the curve for Father's Day or that birthday, whatever, and you get that unique special gift that no one else is going to give. And trust me, like, I'm giving this to my mom this weekend. She's going to be here. And you know what? She's going to have to hang it. And my brother and sister may not be happy, but that's why it's such a perfect gift. I'm going to have the gift that hangs in the house, and they won't. So text Spicer to 87204 for that perfect gift. Remember that message and data rates may apply. Now back to the panel. All right, I want to pivot for a second. We all, to some degree, have been in the comms world. So Hilton, let me start with you. Give me a grade on Kristi Noem's book tour.
Oh my God. Can I just say, if I were her comms director, I would be in the fetal position in the corner of my house, and I wouldn't step out for a week. That's what I would be doing right now. I would be crying.
So let me take this a step further. I wasn't going to go there. She canceled all of her additional. She had an interview on Fox's Gutfeld. Dana Bash was going to have her on CNN. Real Clear Politics had an interview. She canceled them all because of weather. Was that the right call?
Can I just say this? Can I add this? She Why in the world would you cancel, out of all the interviews you've already done, Greg Gutfeld? That was the interview you should have done. That was where you go, you make a joke of it, that's where you can laugh off the mistakes you made. Instead, she does the hard shows where she gives these non-answer answers and she looks like a fool when she could have gone on Greg Gutfeld. And then when she doesn't go on Greg Gutfeld, he's going to roast her. And
he did.
Roaster, and he did. Yeah. And so he could have just faced the music, laughed it off, and gotten it over with. And I think it would have all been behind her, but she didn't.
Okay, Michael, you do media training for a lot of your clients. What would you have just stop for a second, forget the partisanship. This is a client with a book. And I just lay the cards on the table and tell me, what would you have advised her to do at this situation?
Two things: fire everyone around her.
And then the second thing would be, I don't mean to rebut this, but they've been leaking out from the publisher saying, no way, Jose, we told her this was a dumb story to include, and she insisted on it. They're doing a little CYA over at her publisher's house.
Yeah, I mean her internal staff, like whoever her comms person is, whoever her chief of staff is, clear house, because they're clearly only telling her what she wants to hear. And then the second thing she needs to do is go do a very friendly, funny interview. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like with a gut-filled type of person, someone who she can be silly with and show that she's a human.
But I don't think she can be silly. I think Hilton's right.
She has to show nutrition.
Hilton's right. She should have found a venue, but she went on Newsmax. I mean, you can't get a layup. Rob Finnerty, who's a buddy of mine, literally just said, explain yourself. And she was just like, I can't believe she did it on Stuart Varney. These are not tough interviews. She knew the question and she could have said, you know what? Maybe made it light, owned it a little bit more. They were asking her about the Kim Jong Un interview. And she's saying, I don't discuss my world leader interviews. It's like, no, that one, you didn't have one. So you could have just said, look, I got confused. I screwed up. I'm sorry. And let's move on. She won't even admit it's a mistake. And I think that looks stupid.
How did she get this far, though, is my real question. I mean, she was a member of Congress. People had nice things to say about her when she was a member. She's governor. Like, it almost like she had a mouth, like a circuit wire out of nowhere.
Yeah. Doug, before you answer the sort of outstanding question, I want to just go back, put your member of Congress hat on. Are there times when your staff came to you and said, Congressman, this is the wrong thing. It's not a good idea. And you either overruled them and said, wow, they're right. I mean, walk us through those conversations. Is it that tough to have that conversation with your boss if they're an elected official like she is?
It is if you don't allow that environment to start with. I always had an environment from my staff assistant up to my chief of staff. They all had access, at appropriate times. They could say what they want to say. And especially my chief, especially my comms, and especially my legislative director at the time, they had the ability to walk in. And there was one very specific time that my comms director, she was amazing. She came in and she said, boss, you're wrong. She said, you're flat out wrong. And she didn't back down. And I respect that. And I did change. I finally looked at it and I said, okay, I agree. You get in a sense, though, of if you don't have that environment to start with, what is the old saying? Character is not found in a tough situation. It's revealed. And I think that's the issue here that you're looking at. The staff around her undoubtedly didn't have it. Here's my problem with this story. And I know Kristi very well. I mean, I served with her. I know her kids. I know her. She's done a good job as governor.
Do you know the dog?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But here's my problem. You hang a lantern on your own problem. Okay. You go back to the old, Democrat Tip O'Neill, hang a lantern on your own problem kind of thing. But the problem is she kept just denying. No one, there were others, and this has been pointed out on social media, there were others on the quote Codell to Korea that none of them have come out and said, no, we didn't meet with Kim Jong Un. That would have been a major issue if they had met with a foreign. It just didn't happen. And for then her to just double down on it. The dog story, the issue story. Here's the problem. They make it sound like this was a surprise. She read the audio book. This was not a surprise unless you don't understand. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? No, I don't hear, because she read it, but she thought it was good. She thought it was undoubtedly showing something.
Do you remember
anybody around her said that it was good? They're terrible. She should have stopped this after the Brennan interview on Sunday. Should have been the last one.
Do you remember there's an episode of Seinfeld where like Kramer's telling stories and Peterman wants to buy them? He's like, I like that story. I'll buy that. And then I'll use it in my book. And there's a deal that Elaine transacts with Kramer to sell stories to her boss, Peterman, who wants to put them in a book. And then Kramer forgets that he can't tell the stories anymore. Anyway, I digress on that.
Let me give a specific instance of this. I had a client one time who wanted to do Tucker's show back when Tucker was on Fox. And they were a Democrat. And I was like, this is a bad idea. Like, yes, you're friends with Tucker. You travel in the same circles. But you going on Tucker is a terrible idea. You win no votes from this. And it got to the point where Tucker actually had to say to this person, like, it's not a good idea for you to come on my show because I will have to do what I do. And it ended up working out. But
I think Doug's right, though. I mean, look, I even with Trump, you never tell him he's wrong, but I would go to him and say, Mr. President, I understand. Here's what you want to achieve. I think we can do it this way without getting the blowback that'll ensue if we do it this way. There's a way to approach even the most unapproachable people if you come at them understanding how they look at issues. And I think the biggest misconception sometimes that people have of Trump is that he doesn't listen. He listens all the time. I think part of the problem sometimes is how some of his outside advisors approached him on issues that was the bigger issue. Michael, I want to come back to you, though, because there was a headline in Axios that I thought was pretty unbelievable. So today, President Biden, who knows if it's going to happen today or not, is going to announce these new asylum rules to get tough on the border. And Chuck Schumer came out and said, Democrats are going to make it clear which party is working to fix our broken border and which party is conspiring to make it worse. From a PR standpoint, again, I don't think that this is you're swimming against the tide. The American public does not believe that the Democrats, I mean, on abortion, you guys got it all day long, every day, right? But on this one, I'm like, really? You think that you're going to go at the Republicans on border security?
I mean, look, we've got to make some movement. We got to win a couple points on this issue. And arguing that I think rightfully Republicans are the one who sank the immigration bill. It was a Republican sponsored bill. Democrats were going to sign on. And until Trump came out and said, don't sign on to this bill, it looked like it was going to pass. And so I think that's an argument that Democrats need to make. The border immigration's it's a losing issue for Democrats. And so we've got to pick off some independents to have a chance to win.
Hilton, don't you think the problem is that I think this idea, it's not a border bill. It's an immigration bill that allowed more people to come into the country. And we got bamboozled in this. Trump wasn't against giving Biden a win. He was against a crappy bill.
Yeah, and the border bill would have codified the law, the catch and release law that killed Laken Riley. So I don't know why we would pass a bill that would allow something like that, especially when we all know, and this has been repeated over and over and over again, Biden already has the power to stop what's going on at the border. He just refuses to do it, and he wants to point fingers at Republicans and point fingers at Trump. So that's how he used this.
Yeah. Doug, as far as Republicans go, the one big disappointment that I've had is anyone who watches the show knows I really do believe for like a multitude of reasons that the border is where we should be every day of the week. And we've taken our foot off of the gas. And part of it is because of what's going on the college campuses. But I don't think the average person, maybe I'm wrong, you've run for office. Like if you're running around campaigning right now, would you rather be talking about what's happening on college campuses or the threat that an open border poses to our communities in terms of fentanyl and crime, et cetera?
I think it's the easiest chewing bubblegum and walking at the same time that a Republican could ever do. I mean, if you can't do this, you don't need to be running for office. I mean,
but they're not.
Well, I make my case. I mean, maybe there's just some problem out there. Look, we've become too dependent. I'm going to use it funny. We become too dependent. And I've said this many times about my conservative party, my Republicans. We're like gnats on Red Bull. We cannot freaking stay on task for anything. We are awful at it. And we love to go out. We love to try and mimic what we think the Democrats do, but we don't even understand what the Democrats do when they do issue politics and identity politics. So we don't do it very well. We do it terribly, as a matter of fact. And so think about this. They're intertwined. Chaos on the campus, chaos on the border. I mean, I'm an old Southern Baptist preacher, but I'm not even communication. I can even alliterate that. Okay. Let's think about this for a second. What we're doing here should be very easily messaged, and I agree with Michael. They don't have a message on immigration. They're losing badly on it, and anything they do. And until the president admits, yes, I did 98 actions that did affected the border, but and if I wanted to, I can, but I'm choosing not to because I don't believe they're in the best interest, which he's never said. He just basically says, I have no power to do this and sends it to Congress. As a member of Congress who was on the judiciary, who dealt with immigration, I will tell you right now, very bluntly, it is a better issue. It was until you get open borders for Democrats to do nothing on immigration because they didn't feel like they were losing any votes or anything else. The problem is now with an open border situation, it has become a definite liability. And if Republicans can't talk about that in viable terms, then we're conditioning ourselves to be a party that's not going to be able to commit resources.
Doug,
here's the problem with abortion, with the immigration real quick. Every day that there's a murder that's caused by someone who illegally crosses the border, it is death by 1,000 cuts for Democrats. And every day it should terrify Democrats that a terrorist attack happens.
Yes.
Is caused by someone who crosses the border. If that happens, it is the end of the party as we know it. And so it's playing Russian roulette. And it's not a thing that Democrats can do by themselves, but we will be the ones that are to blame for it, right or wrong.
And the thing is, this is why I said to Doug, we're taking our foot off the pedal. It's a issue that transcends so many different aspects of society, the crime, the drugs, the concern about voting, all of this stuff. And yet we took our foot off the pedal. All right, you guys know every Thursday we do winners and losers. But before we get to the winners and losers, I want to tell you how to be a winner. Guaranteed winner. Because if you call my friends at Bishop Gold Group, 844-98416, better yet, go online, go to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean. You're going to get a free gift and you'll definitely be a winner because these are the smart folks that I trusted when I wanted to diversify my investments. bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, and you will definitely be a winner because they will have a conversation with you about what makes sense for you, what mix, gold, silver, it doesn't matter. There's a ton of options they can give you. They can explain how you hold it, how you liquefy it, how you roll over a 401k, but they will have a personalized plan for you. You will definitely be a winner if you have that conversation, and it's worth it. Just go to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean. The conversation itself is so great. I learned so much about how I could diversify my investment strategy and my holdings, but these are the people that I trust. They're knowledgeable. They're full of integrity. Go to bishopgoldgroup.com. Just like I did, this is where I put my money and have that conversation with them. bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean. Check it out. Hilton, the thing that I thought was funny, Doug brought it up. For the longest time, Biden's been saying, I can't do anything on this. I need Congress to act. And then they come out today and say, hey, we're going to make asylum stricter, that you have to, we can send you back as soon as you come over the border. We're going to reject your asylum claim, which is what we've been arguing the whole time. I don't understand this. And yet, again, I am so concerned we're going to blow this from a messaging standpoint.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can't trust. I mean, the House Republicans couldn't even impeach Mayorkas. It took 2 times to do it. So, like, there is no trust there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they blew the messaging on it. But, like, it just cannot believe Biden. It's 3 years too late. This is like what they should be messaging on. You've had 3 years to do this. You've said every lie in the book. It's all on tape. We have everything that Biden has said, everything that Karine Jean-Pierre has said, everything his Biden administration has said. That said they had literally their hands were tied behind their back and it was all the Republicans and Trump's fault. And now they're coming in at the very final hour and saying, oh, we'll do this. We'll just so they have something to use going into November. And it's just like, I really hope the Republicans market on this.
Here's something I want to point out about immigration before we go off this topic.
Yeah.
I want to point it out because it is true. And Biden is, and what Hilton said, Michael said, are both true in different ways. But I will say this, the reason that we have so much problems with immigration is that we also forget the Biden argument and the Democrat argument is, remember, for 2 years under Biden, they had the House and the Senate. Okay. They could have done something with immigration. They chose not to do it. And if they really, really, really were committed to doing something with immigration, then Schumer would have pushed it through on a procedural issue with the, filibuster. So I don't want to hear it. When they had filibuster proof back in 2010, they didn't touch it either. So that just tells me that this is an immigration.
We passed the ACA.
What?
the biggest healthcare reform. So we passed the ACA, the biggest healthcare reform ever.
Yeah,
we
but,
were a
but,
little
but
occupied.
Michael, I'll be honest with you. Just as I told Jared Polis on the floor of the House one day, you see your priorities in two things: your checkbook and your calendar. And the issue here is that the issues for Democrats was they were willing to screw up the banking system, screw up the healthcare system. They were willing to go into other things, but they wasn't willing to deal with immigration. But yet they would bring DACA kids into the House chamber when they were passing a bill that would do nothing to help them, and lie to them, tell them it was going to help them.
Well,
That's
also,
the problem.
I think, look, the question, your priorities are correct. I mean, you think about the first year of Trump, I think going with healthcare first was a huge mistake too. We weren't ready for it. Let me ask you guys a question. There is a bill that just passed, HR 7109. Does any one of you know what I'm talking about? Because I'm going to get into this, but I want to prove a point here. Have any of you heard of HR 7109?
Is that the appliances bill?
No. See, this is my point. This was just no. This is why this is, to me, I saw this get passed. Somebody flagged this for me. It was a bill that just passed completely on a party line vote. And what it dealt with was how the census counts people in this country. Right? Okay. Yeah. But it got zero attention. And the question I have is, should it have gotten more? Right? So right now, the way it works is that if you're in this country, doesn't matter if you're legal, illegal, whatever. When we do the census, we count everybody. So when we take people who are not legal in this country and we bring them over our southern border and we push them into California, whatever, when it comes to reapportionment, i.e. how many votes every state gets in Congress, how many representatives they get, how many electoral votes they get, it's counted by how many bodies are in a state, not how many citizens are in a state. And the Republicans wanted to clarify for this census that it had to be a citizen. Doug, you're the legislator. Why? I'm like, where was the messaging buildup to this? I was like, as somebody who keeps an eye on this, I was going, hey, this would have been something that we would have been talking about on the show. I thought that I saw nobody on talk radio talking about. I felt like, again, another blown opportunity for House Republicans.
It is a blown opportunity in the sense of trying to explain it, because again, this is where, and I would think Mike would at least agree with me in principle here. This is one of those 80-20 kind of things that no matter who you are in the country, the citizen aspect or a non-citizen is very powerful. That's a very powerful aspect. So, and also, by the way, it was party line vote. No Democrat voted for this. Right. So they put themselves on record saying that we support basically rights for non-citizens. So, I mean, it's definitely a messaging bill. But here's my problem. We've done this in Congress now, especially Republicans, for the number of years. We're not organized. And now we don't, I'm going to go way in the weeds for about 10 seconds here. We do not have chairmen who are actually holding committee hearings on real substantive legislation to bring to the floor. I'm friends with the Rules Committee in the House. The Rules Committee is it's like desperately seeking Susan. They're desperately seeking a bill to put on the floor because they don't have them. And so here's what happens. We put that appliance bill up. We put this bill up, but we're doing so in ways that, we're not even having theme weeks anymore. We're just throwing stuff up there because we have members in our own party that have threatened to take down rules, that have threatened to take down bills on seemingly meaningless messaging bills. So it's not surprising when you have a speaker who's having to count this. If I'm corrected right, and Hilton, Michael, Sean, y'all tell me, he spent 4.5 hours with 2 members of Congress this week. He doesn't get to spend that much time with his wife. Right. And he's spending 4 hours with members of Congress who, frankly, are not putting anything productive on the table. It's no wonder we didn't message it.
And by the way, after that 4.5 hours, she then still shivved the guy. It's like, dude, at least my wife would have been like, hey, can we go have a drink or something? Michael, just real quickly, do you think that we lost that? Like, are you comfortable with, because of the landscape that I've described, do you think that Democrats cared about that vote or not?
Well, I don't know enough about the legislation, but here's what I'll say. When it comes to apportionment, that's also how states' budgets are formed. That's how federal governments figure out how much money they're giving to people. And so, yeah, you want to make sure that when people are there, it's not just citizens that are counted, because people who are non-citizens are also going to contribute towards the cost of policing, the cost of court costs, the cost of medical care. And so those do count. I don't know enough about the bill to really say how that was factored in, but I would really imagine that it had to do more with the budgeting than anything else.
All right.
Sean, can I jump in really fast?
Yeah, of course.
I just want to say, too, going off of Doug's point and your point about messaging, what a sad time to waste, given that New York and Chicago are bleeding so badly, and this is a sensitive time for them to go and message about immigration, because all of them are feeling it. Even you have New York mayor and Chicago mayor saying, Biden, please help us. We can't do this anymore. And they could go in there and be like, hey, they want to make these illegals, they want to give them just the right to vote, even though they're not citizens. They're already taking your resources. They're taking your playgrounds, your parks. They're taking up space. They're taking your money. And now they can vote for whoever they want in office. And they're going to vote for the people who let them here in the first place. Why aren't we hammering on that in blue cities right now, where we can start making, start chipping away at these liberal policies?
Yeah, I think overall this comes back to a lack of leadership. This comes back to someone who says, I have a plan. I need you guys to follow me. Here's how we're going to do this. I get it. Not everyone will be in line. I'm not disputing that it's a tough task, but there's no sense of vision. And that's the one thing, like him or not, Newt had a vision. Nancy Pelosi was feared. Everybody knew what she was doing. I mean, she is not, you don't have to like her. She is a strong leader. Newt was a strong leader. I don't think we're seeing that anymore. They're being guided by the lowest common denominator. Hilton, I do want to ask you about this comment that, again, where I sort of, I'm not going to put this one on House Republicans, but I'll put this on sort of the media. Kathy Hochul came out and made this comment this week about kids in the Bronx and said that they don't even know what a computer is.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them.
Now, she cleaned it up afterwards by saying, oh, I didn't know what I mean. But how is that? If a Republican made that comment, they would have been crushed, number one. Number two, I was telling people when I was at the RNC, if little Tommy says something at like Jackson Middle School, I'd get a call and be like, do the Republicans have a comment on that? No Democrat was asked, what do they think about Kathy Hochul's comments? She got off scot-free on that.
Yeah, of course she did. They always do. And this also goes back to the point of, Democrats have always treated their constituents like they're stupid. Like, they just say things and they know they can get away with it from the media. Especially, look at Biden's track record. If you really want to talk about racist, they want to point the finger at Trump and say, you're racist, you're racist. Look at everything that Biden has said, talking about you have to have a slight Indian accent to work at 7-Eleven, and that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. He talked about segregation and racist jungles for children. Like, he said so many things. Also, too, the Democrats want to talk about how voter ID is black suppression. Like, black people don't know how to go to the DMV and get an identification card. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this is what the Democrats have always done, but they always get away with it because the media doesn't hold them accountable and they rather point fingers on the right side.
Michael, why did Kathy Hochul, was it the media that just let her off the hook? Why did Kathy Hochul get away with that comment?
Listen, first of all, I thought the comment was reprehensible. Having low expectations for African Americans being, I think those comments are more revealing than anything else. I often say that when people make comments like that, when David Trone made his comment,
he was running for the Senate in Maryland. Just to people,
yeah.
David Trone, which again, I think that David Trone's comment, for those who didn't, he used a word, and I can't even remember what he said because but it was sort of a.
I won't repeat it, but it was a pejorative term.
Pejorative,
right?
But I think that there's almost an excuse there where you could say I didn't fully appreciate the stigma that has in that community. I'm not excusing it. But I can see certain people not being exposed to it and saying, I had heard this, I didn't realize it was negative. What Kathy Hochul said was an indictment on those kids, that they're not smart enough to know what a computer is. And again, that's different than saying they don't have access the way that other communities do.
Let me say it this way. I think both parties mistreat the African-American community, take us for granted, take our vote for granted, whether it's Trump making comments about black people liking certain tennis shoes or being more, liking them because of criminal propensities. I think Democrats and Republicans both take the black vote for granted. I think if black people showed up in higher percentages to vote, we could literally change the force of the elections. And I think when both parties commit more to African-American voters, it will change the course of elections.
But just to get back to your point, to the question I asked you, why was there no backlash? When David Trone said what he did, now granted, he's in a race against a female black candidate, right? So Angela also Brooks, who he's primarying in the Maryland Senate, she had a team that went after him for the comment, right? Why didn't anybody in the Democratic Party denounce what Kathy Hochul was saying?
I heard a lot of African-American commentators and analysts criticize Governor Hochul for her comments. I heard the mayor come out and make comments about it. I can't speak for like the broader liberal media as a totality, right, but I think she has definitely been properly critiqued and criticized for it.
Okay.
She hasn't been critiqued at all, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I felt,
to be fair here, she's not been critiqued at all about this. And the idea of both parties, I'm not going to, both parties, there's people who can say, different things about different communities that you reach out to. But it is, interestingly enough, that Democrats get the pass here in what Kathy Hochul said. By the way, the internet is having a field day with this, with that comment, which is just amazing. But again, she's not being held accountable. She's not going to be held accountable. You don't hear anything out of Hakeem Jeffries. You don't hear anything out of the leadership. They're not even asked about it. But yeah,
I think there's a reason for that, though.
What's the reason?
I think
the
it's
reason
called
for that,
bias.
because I think there's a liberal bias, but I think that there is a Democrats are given the benefit of the doubt when I think it comes to racial issues, fairly or unfairly. I think more fairly because Democrats have historically been the ones to defend African Americans. Republicans have been, whether it's the George Wallaces, the Donald Trumps. I mean, it's not like Republicans have this clean history when it comes to racial dynamics. Like,
well, wait, just to be clear, up until the mid 1960s,
I know.
Up until the 1960s, actually, it was quite the opposite. I mean,
it was Democrats in my state that voted for segregation, Michael. Right. You need to read a history book past 1970,
right.
But there was a time there. I mean,
right.
Prior
to, but there's a reason. There's a reason there was a change.
Back to something different. I'm going to back something different because, Michael, you said the silent part out loud about the census a minute ago. And the census actually, we all get fired up about voting. We did a thing last year about illegals not voting. It's exactly what you talked about. You said the silent part out loud. You need the government largesse to keep building, because the more people you can say that need government help, the bigger the government fits, which is a more of a liberal Democrat philosophy. The bigger the government, the better we are. That's why this is so important to Democrats, because they can continue to keep programs. They can continue to keep funding programs into communities across the country in various forms, in the form of money. And I think that's the key. And you said it out loud. I appreciate you saying it. I'm not condemning you for it. You said properly. Because that's why Democrats didn't do this, because they don't see it as a sense. And by the way, it's not going to be held against hardly any of them in an election, because we only have truly about 14 flippable seats in this country.
Yeah.
So it's really just not going to be held that way. But at least you said the right thing out loud, and that is, we're worried about the census because we're not going to make sure that we don't get enough of the government trough.
All right. Before we wrap for today, I want to go around the horn and do winners and losers of the week. Just to get a sense of who you thought won the week and who you thought lost the week. Hilton, I'll start with you. Who do you think won the week and who do you think lost the week?
Does it have to be political?
No.
Oh, great. Okay. Winner of the week. Winners, really. Tom Brady's roast on Netflix. That's my winner, because comedy's back, people. Cancel culture's out. Comedy's back. It maybe have gone too far. It definitely went too far, but I love it because finally people don't care. Netflix aired it. If you were going to cry about it, go put a helmet on and sit in a corner. Because
by the way, the only thing Netflix edited out was Kim Kardashian getting booed. None of the jokes.
I know.
But so many of those jokes, I was in my living room going, oh. So, okay, who's your loser?
No, definitely winner. Loser, I'm going to say Stormy Daniels. Getting up there, but she's kind of a loser and a winner, because she went up there and kind of, showed her cards. She's talking about how she wants Trump in jail, blah, blah, blah. But, I think she's also a winner because she's proving that this is so emotionally motivated. And I think this case is going to get thrown out. So,
Michael, who do you got as a winner and a loser?
Two winners, Hakeem Jeffries and all the moms. I'm going to be cheesy about it. Happy Mother's Day to the moms.
Smart move. Oh, Michael. That's why I go last.
What did I say?
Good job.
Yeah, right?
That was smart. The loser
of the week, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay. Wow. She's a mom too.
Who's your loser, Michael?
He said MTG.
Yeah, MTG.
Okay.
Doug's got Georgia earmuffs
she got what she
on.
wanted. My loser of the week, and this harmful. We talked about it a lot. It hurts because she's a personal friend. Is Kristi Noem, and by no means I'm not. It's been a long time since you saw a career go from high to non-existent in a matter of 3 to 4 days, and it's sad to see. But it also very reminiscent of you got to take control of issues and not go. Winner of the week is the American judicial system, and it's the Trump trials. What we're seeing here is actually going through and again, Sean, you talked about media not reporting anything. Can you imagine the uproar that if the FBI, which I've had so much dealings with this FBI, and did what they did in the Trump document case, faking stuff, putting it out of order, the chain of custody, non-existent in this thing, in the documents case in Florida, no matter what you feel about Biden, but just looking at this case as a defense attorney, that was the most, egregious thing you've seen. You see the appeal going forward here in Georgia. I think you have to look at that as the American judicial system, and by default, Donald Trump being the winner of the week on that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to take a twist on that. I'm going to say the winner of the week is Barron Trump. Barron Trump, we didn't get to this today, is going to be a delegate for his dad. And I think it's kind of cool. I've always wondered, he's always been protected. He wants to step out. He wants to be a delegate for his dad at the convention. And regardless of what you think of Trump or any of that stuff, I just think it's really cool that here's this kid that's been in the spotlight in his teens and now has an opportunity to step out and be involved in the political system. And my kudos to him. By the way, total side note, because we didn't get to this either, but there's a lot of folks in the media that are making a big deal out of the fact that Trump asked for the day off to attend Barron's graduation on May 17th. And then he's going to an event that evening. And I'm like, yes, here's the invitation. Barron's graduation is at 10 a.m. This event starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time in Minnesota. And the guy has a plane, so everyone needs to pipe down. The loser of the week in my mind are all the Democrats who thought the judicial system was going to save them on this guy. As Politico put it yesterday, I think that what they thought was going to stop him has turned into several speed bumps along the way. And I think that's it. As always, guys.
Sean,
yeah.
Can I say one thing quickly? Because you brought it up with Barron, and I wanted to talk real quickly on this with Barron. My concern is it's only the liberal outlets that are making a big deal of him becoming a delegate. And I think what they're doing is opening the door so that they can now criticize him as an adult. There's a nefarious motive here, and that's what it is.
I hope you're. I am concerned. I share your concern. I hope you're wrong. I think we all do. Anyway, guys, thank you all for being here. Always love these discussions on Thursdays. Tomorrow, Kimberly Guilfoyle will be here, as well as House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. We're going to ask him about these investigations, ask him about what he's doing to look at college campuses. You saw he was calling DC's mayor in the other day until she called in the police in the middle of the night. We'll ask him about that. So continue to subscribe tomorrow. We got a great end of the week for you. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure you click the link below to find out more, or you can go to SeanSpicerShow.com to stay up to date on all my content.